This program has been made possible in part by the following sponsors. The Trial Lawyers Association of BC. The Vancouver Courier newspaper. KCM Wealth Management. Why, it's the good old reliable Parks Board, Parks Board. Yeah, we never think of the Parks Board really as being controversial, but oddly enough, these days the Parks Board is caught up in a couple of very interesting little struggles. One of them has to do with the possibility of selling like the 18th hole of Langara to make condos, and the other is about more seawalls around the city. We're delighted to have with us in our studio today a dear friend, Constance Barnes, who is in her second term as commissioner at the Vancouver Parks Board, works at the Dr. Sun Yat-sen Classical Chinese Garden community activist, not-for-profit leader, concerned with issues about childhood, poverty, mothers, equal rights, and all of the usual kinds of things.
All of the Barnes,
all
the Barnes lists
that we would expect of you.
That's right.
So look, let's start with let's turn Stanley Park into condos. I mean, who
said that?
Well, as far as we know, somebody at the Parks Board said something about chopping off or slicing off a bit of Langara Golf Course.
Well,
what was all that about? How did that come about?
So first thing, it's actually the Park Board.
Oh,
so it's Vancouver Board of Parks and Recreation.
Oh, it's
like
Park
when you think,
Board.
Yes, it's the Park Board.
But is it Spanish Bank? No,
that's
Spanish
banks. It's banks.
It's being reversed.
And that gentleman fought. What am I?
My
fourth year.
Legale.
He's been fighting that one for a long time. So hopefully he's a happy camper.
He used to be my accountant.
Yeah. Oh yes, and now he's happy.
Yes,
that's one of the ones that we
and
get
he
to
takes,
put a tip
and he
inside.
takes care of the little salmon runs.
I know.
In Jericho.
There's people that they're in love with their green space.
Of course. Of course.
And,
so with the Park Board, who came up with this?
Okay, well, number one, it was a motion, and it was a motion put forward by Commissioner Aaron Jasper.
Yes.
And what it read, and here's a perfect example of people getting, reading something and kind of reading in between the lines.
Yes.
And love the media, but here's where the media ties in, we got something here, let's run with this. So you've got a motion that basically is requesting staff to go and do some homework on how much are we spending on our golf courses? What are we making on our golf courses? What is the revenue? What could we be doing better? What is the possibility, yes, I say possibility, of shortening the golf course, so making it less holes. I'm not a golfer, so don't quote me on how many holes and all of that great stuff. But what it really was is asking our staff, what are the efficiencies? Where could we be doing better? What happened is you've got the mayor who is, of course, always looking for affordable housing and where that can be built. So he's speaking about affordable housing. He's speaking about looking for land to put affordable housing on. He gets asked the question, well, we hear that you may be looking at golf courses, and what he says is, well, we're open to anything, okay? Then you've got people going, oh, they're going to tie it in. Oh, okay, the Park Board's in, the mayor's pocket and all of that. So that's how that folded out. I myself made an amendment to the motion that spoke very clearly and directed staff not to come back with anything that has to do with development or with any kind of housing on our golf courses.
This morning,
yes,
the former city planner, Larry Beasley, and the current planner, Brent Hadarian, the two of them took Mayor Moonbeam to task.
Mayor Moonbeam.
And they said, look, the answer to more housing is for all of those thousands of properties on main streets that are only a story and a half high, build 4 stories. Many of us have been saying this for 40 years. I remember when I was in my 20s saying this to somebody. those
Oh,
places.
you remember when you were in your 20s?
Yes, I still
You're doing
remember.
better than
I didn't smoke enough pot, apparently. I didn't do enough drugs because I actually remember what happened.
There you go.
Yeah, but the buildings along 4th Avenue, for example, the
Right.
buildings along 10th Avenue, which in many cases are a story or 2 stories, how about the famous, world-famous model? On the ground, you have retail. 2nd floor, you have doctors, lawyers, and accountants.
Yeah.
And 3rd and 4th floors are residences.
Yeah.
Okay? We've got tons of space to go up a story or 2. What are we looking at parks for?
It makes sense. It makes absolute sense. Now, I need to be very clear that I'm here to speak on parks. I'm not city council,
I
and
understand.
I'm not a mayor. I'm not the mayor and council, but it makes sense. I read that myself this morning, and I
Yes.
thought, well, there's a brilliant idea. So, and there's another point. We sat until almost midnight last Monday.
Yes.
There were over 20, I think 7 speakers that came out, and each one get 5 minutes.
Wow.
What? And this is another perfect example, is this is where we get really great ideas.
Yes.
People came forward with ideas on how the golf course is set up, on the programming. Seniors came forward, youth groups came forward, Coast Salish Aboriginal groups came forward. People came forward with great ideas, ideas about the 2.68 kilometers that go around, and asked, why don't you put crunch benches? Why don't you put benches, picnic tables? The one thing about situations like this, you can either look at it and think, okay, we're in trouble, or you can really listen to what's coming forward
You know
to
what?
you.
I worked at Langara College for almost
Yeah.
3 years, and almost daily, without fail, regardless of weather, I did that 2.5K.
Yeah.
Usually in roughly 30 minutes.
Oh,
if I
that's
was
not
if
bad.
I was energetic, I did it twice.
Good for you.
I don't care if there's crunch benches. I don't care if there's any of that. You just walk or run that
Yeah.
cinder path. First, it's great exercise. Second, it's like being in heaven.
Yes, it is.
It's in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
And it's gorgeous.
And there's migratory birds. But you know what we did
Exactly.
here is when it rains,
Yes.
it's a sloppy, muddy mess that it's not accessible for people with wheelchairs or with
wheelchairs,
strollers.
that's
But those are the kinds of things that we have to listen to. So even when you have a situation where you have a lot of angry people, because I'll tell you, for myself,
Yes.
and I thought, okay, maybe we could, shorten it. Maybe we could put a little play area. Myself, no, absolutely not. What I heard loud and clear that night was, you touch this golf course and you're going down.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, touch our golf
very
course
clear.
and you're going down.
Absolutely. Now, look,
Absolutely.
just for the record,
Yes.
explain to everybody who's watching, to the 2 guys who are watching, that
Could be a couple of women. You don't have to be,
okay, to Mary and Sybil who are watching, explain to them the relationship between the park board
Yes.
and Vancouver City Council. My understanding now, having read most of the website, is that the City Council grants the powers to Vancouver Park Board, and ultimately, according to the Vancouver Charter, the Park Board is answerable to council. Is that correct?
No, no,
sorry.
no. What happens
Explain
is
it.
the city actually we advocate to the city for a budget. The city gives us our budget.
Well,
the park board is an elected
Piper
body.
calls the tune.
Well, you know what though? The city is not telling us what we do with those dollars.
Yes.
I mean, they may say, something, you're getting cuts this year,
yeah.
so we have to go back to the drawing board, or our staff do. We direct them as to our core. So our core is making sure people are healthy, our community centers are being run, that we have the early care and learning in our community centers, our facilities are being maintained, the pools, the golf courses, all of those pieces, we need to make sure that those are maintained.
You have
and
an
looked after.
important and direct connection to Vancouver
Well,
City Council.
we do, but we also don't answer to them as far as what we hear from the community. The council, city council are, they're they give us the ability to make the decisions as to what we do with our budget.
Here's the budget according to your website. 56 million roughly for this year, based on 103 in expenses and 49 in revenues, and a capital budget of about 18 million.
Yeah.
And Langara averages about 50,000 visitors, I think a month, is it?
Well, actually, Langara, and I'm pretty sure we're at 10 million to run this golf course, and
Yes.
we actually in revenue is 1 million. So when you're looking at the costs to maintain the golf course, and this is where we look at efficiencies.
Yes.
So if you're a golfer, you know that they're very well maintained. We had Paul Farrell come forward, and there's about 2,000 union workers that are out there.
But isn't there an understanding, Constance, in public life that not all amenities are profit makers?
Yes.
I mean, we spend tax dollars to have a place like that.
Absolutely, we do.
Yeah.
The question is, what do we at the park board need to be doing better to make sure it's accessible to everybody? Right now, still, you've got seniors, you've got people with disabilities that can't afford $35 to $60, $70 to go golfing. Is it accessible to them? Are we reaching out to them? Do we have programming that is getting...
I don't think you're reaching out, to be honest.
Well, you know something? And I'm in marketing.
Yeah.
So for myself, I really have struggled since day one with the lack of marketing that the park board has. We have world-renowned facilities, especially after the Olympics. We have Hillcrest, we have number 1 Kingsway. How many people know that we have a climbing wall at number 1 Kingsway, which is now the new Mount Pleasant?
Yes.
How many people know that we have, the field houses, which are now doing art and have these wonderful programs to engage the community? We don't market it.
We don't know.
So I put forward Octavio Silva, who's great at the park board, and I are working on a new business advisory marketing committee, and it will be some of the best.
Okay, just for because we're going to go to break soon.
Yes.
Is there a way to put this story to bed? It's not going to happen, is it?
It's not going to happen. Well, no. If you think that we are ever going to have anything...
We're not going to tear up Langara
No, we're not
for housing.
going to. No. And in fact, that was something that was, again, you've got a motion coming forward, you've got the mayor saying something, you've got 2 or 3 days that all of a sudden these things are in the news and people put it together and all of a sudden we're building high-rises on Langara. Not going to happen. Not under my watch, it sure as heck isn't going to happen.
I will tell you that I've been in this town almost 50 years, and I love the public amenities. I walk English Bay SeaWall, which we'll talk about after the break. But Stanley Park for years, every time I look at Stanley Park, I think of real estate people salivating.
Well, let them salivate. Tell them to get a tissue and wipe the spit, because guess what? It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Okay, you heard it. You heard it here, folks. It's not going to happen.
Keep dreaming. Their story touches us deeply.
Okay. And you were told in no uncertain terms last Monday night.
Oh, very loud and clear.
Was it raucous? Was it fun?
Oh, it was loud and clear. It was fabulous. That's what I love. People come on out and speak and get it out. That's what we need to hear.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And you can remind people that that's their job as citizens. Come out,
and it's our job to listen.
Noise.
It's our job to listen and go, oh, okay, we're not going that direction.
And nobody was embarrassed? I mean, nobody at Park Board was embarrassed?
Well, if they were,
that's
their problem. I know I wasn't. I heard what was coming for you.
Bananas.
Yeah, exactly. Tough bananas.
Okay. We're going to take a little break. Our guest is Constance Barnes. She is in her 2nd term as Commissioner of the Vancouver Park Board.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sharp, man. Sharp.
Not to be confused with Spanish bank. Take this little break. Remind you that davidburner.com is the site to visit. Welcome your comments at that site as well. And we take a breather and give our friends a chance to say hello. These are the people who are so kind to support this program here on Shaw Community Television, Cable 4. Back in a minute. This program has been made possible in part by the following sponsors. The Vancouver Courier newspaper. KCM Wealth Management. The Trial Lawyers Association of BC. I'm being harassed here because I've admitted that I no longer run. I'm a 2,000-year-old man.
He's a 2,000-year-old man.
I like to play tennis and swim and bicycle. Okay. The mayor, the good mayor, announced recently that an anonymous donor had offered tens of millions of dollars to extend something we already have, and that's the seawalls. Extend the seawall in particular from Kitts Beach out to Jericho and Spanish Banks. So now there's all kinds of to do about that. Should we, shouldn't we? Here's 2 letters. Constance Barnes is our guest. She's in her second term as commissioner with the Park Board. Here's two letters. Grandiose seawall project would destroy bird habitat. There's another one which says, look, I've cycled in a couple hours all the way from the Fraser River down. I don't think we need another big mega project. We need to work with what we already have, and so on. This conversation has now extended. It's not just a conversation about taking that seawall from Kitts Beach out to Jericho. It's all about, the Fraser River and so on. I don't know where this has gone. I want to hear from you. I know what I think. I think we should do this. I'll explain why in a minute. But where have we gone with this?
So there are 2 different projects. You've got the Fraser River, and then you've got the one over at Kitts. Huge bird lover myself, and actually worked with Loretta Woodcock, past commissioner, on the whole migratory birds.
Just a minute. Are you telling me that we had a commissioner who loved birds whose name was Woodcock?
No.
Is that the truth?
Oh, yes, Loretta Woodcock.
This is like a banker being named.
I thought you were going to say, are you telling me that we had a commissioner that worked with a commissioner with another party? And I was going to go, yes, that would be me. Doesn't matter the party. Once you're at the table. Yes, Loretta Woodcock is a bird lover since she was a little girl.
Of course. What else could you be?
And so I learned from Robert Butler, some of the amazing birders of the world, that we have an amazing, amazing city with migratory birds from all over the world.
And are they going to be lost if we have a seawall?
Always, whenever you build anything, there's always changes. I mean, a perfect example is, the work that we're doing where the wharf got taken down and all the rabbits and bunnies and the foreshore and putting the foreshore back. As far as this project, number one, I didn't hear tens of millions of dollars. I heard $1 million. So there's probably more coming out.
This is the quote, tens of millions,
Tens of millions, which it would cost. And absolutely there would be some
disruption.
There always is. There always is. I mean, myself, I am a cyclist, so I'd like to see it continue on. I kind of get down and you walk along. Either that, for a cyclist, you go up onto Point Grey Road and you go in behind and past where the Point Grey,
Do you want to show those green high heels that you cycled with today?
Sure. There you go.
See that? You got a shot of that, folks? Look at that. She cycled here.
Yes. And what is the first question people say? Did you cycle in those? It's like, didn't you all see me on the front cover a week ago with my other high heels?
Yeah.
I know, and I do it just because so you'll ask.
Yeah, okay. So look, I recognize that there will be some disruption.
Yes.
It strikes me that in a world that can build things like the Panama Canal and all kinds of amazing human endeavors, can we not somehow build something that's useful and beautiful and wonderful without utterly destroying the ecology?
Of course we can.
Of course we can.
Of course we can. Absolutely. I mean, we've been rebuilding the seawall. I mean, it's an ongoing project. Since I've been elected, we're always rebuilding the seawall.
The whole False Creek from Granville Island around to Science World now
and we want to complete that
David
as well.
Lamb Park on the north side and so on.
You've got the whole Falls Creek area down by SeaWall. That all needs to be done.
Have we destroyed everything by doing that?
No. In fact, what you do is you can build up foreshore. You can look at what you can create so the habitat is rebuilt. And some of the areas, perfect example again, is the wharf. It was toxic. It had creosote. Those big beams had been in there for so long. If anything, it's healthier the way it is now.
Okay, but here's one of the public policy issues, Constance. One of the many beautiful things about Maui, about the island of Maui, is there's no such thing as private foreshore. There's no such thing as private shoreline. No matter how wealthy, Oprah has a mansion there, the Four Seasons Hotel Resort is spectacular. All these hotels are spectacular. Guess what? Schleps like me, anybody can go on those beaches.
It's public.
Public access. It's public.
Right.
So when you walk, as I often do with my son, along Kitts Beach, and you get to the end of, or the beginning of Point Grey, lower Point Grey, below Cornwall, and then suddenly there's nothing. It's just private.
You get nothing and like it.
Yeah, you get nothing and like it. Exactly.
The old Rodney Dangerfield.
Well, what you get is private homes, and you go, well, I'm sorry, I don't have
Yes.
5 mil.
Yes.
But I would like to walk on this path.
Absolutely, and it's public land.
Hello.
So there you go. You know, and I mean, there's the battle again. I'm sure we'll hear both sides, but I like to see it open to the public, and I like to see it accessible, so that you can have. Let's say that you are a senior and you have a walker, or you're in a wheelchair, or you've got your children in a push cart or something. You should be able to have that accessibility from right across.
One of the great beauties for a cyclist is that you can go basically from Kitts all the way around Science World to UBC, sorry, to Stanley Park, around here to Cole Harbour where we are, and so it's magnificent. Now let's go to the South Arm. Let's look at the Fraser River.
Right.
You can start at Victoria, at the foot of Victoria, and that wonderful walking bicycle path will take you all the way to New West along the river.
It's an amazing walk.
It's beautiful.
It is,
It's beautiful. But what about through those industrial lands all the way to the car barns at the foot of Granville?
Yeah.
What about that?
Well, that's being discussed as well. I mean, and of course we're getting pushback on that. I think people are afraid of change. People are afraid of change, and they also have, and this is something I've found, is they feel entitlement. It's like, well, that's my backyard. I mean, you know, when we built the underneath the Burrard Street Bridge, there's bike jumps under there. Kids were already under there. But the people came out and they were just livid, saying, that's my backyard. And we're actually like, guess what? It's not. It's the taxpayers' land.
And what are we doing?
People feel entitlement, and they don't. It's almost like sometimes they don't want that change. They like to keep it the way that it is. The thing is, you look at tourism. People come and they want to walk the SeaWall.
Absolutely.
They want to have the opportunity to get out and get in the fresh air and exercise, and that's what we really support. So in that sense, I mean, the only concern I have is money. You know, and we need to make sure that we've got the funding for this, and this comes from capital dollars.
Somebody's throwing some loot in here.
You know what? 10 million? That's not so much. This is a huge project.
It's a nice start. I understand.
Yes, it's a nice start.
But if there's an anonymous donor giving us tens of millions, that's a good leverage for the next donor.
It is.
That's a good way to go to the next.
It is. Well, and I've also heard, I know that we have a councillor that's brought forward, you know, who is this donor and what is he up to, and, you know, is he in the pocket of the mayor or whatever. So I'm sure we'll hear about how that goes forward as well, because there's concerns about having an anonymous donor. I'm not sure exactly what that concern is.
The concern has to be legally what strictures are put on the funding, if any.
And then, of course, if you have somebody that wants to put this money forward and they want to stay anonymous, and they're put in a position that they have to come forward with their name, it deters other people that may want to anonymously say, here's some money, build.
Is there any sense that this is dividing on this issue of more seawalls is dividing on any political lines?
It hasn't gotten to that point yet.
Okay.
I think that'll be coming up at City, you know, within, I believe, within the next week.
Do recall that when we approached Expo 86 here, two little companies said they wanted to have little commuter boats and take people across the little salt chuck. And the city council at that time said, what for? And now we have two thriving businesses.
That's right.
But those guys had to fight to do something new.
It's change.
It's change.
I'd like to see us looking, I mean, talking about marketing, I think that we need to have boats out there and we need to go from totem to totem to totem. I mean, tourists would love that. They love our Aboriginal art.
Okay, well, speaking of which, but by the way, I'm glad you said that because I've been surrounded by Aboriginal arts all these years. And while I've noticed them, in some ways I don't notice them. But I have to tell you, the other day I was at some event. Oh, you and I were at the same table. I forgot. We went to the Odd Squad.
I was memorable that night.
You were so memorable, sitting next to each other. But at the Odd Squad event, I walked from one convention center to the other underground, and I found myself staring at the Aboriginal art. And really, for the first time in a long time, being overwhelmed with the great pleasure and joy of having this extraordinary work as part of our scene.
And they are extraordinary. So and I'm working on something with Jill Weaving right now to look at all of our Aboriginal art and find out what are we doing to maintain it. How do we educate people on it, because they don't have signage, they don't have, you know, signage so that interpretation.
Let's get more people to the Bill Reid show, the ongoing Bill Reid show. So is it way too early then to discuss an idea that comes up about every 10 years, and I always go back to the biblical thing, if not now, when? Because as soon as we wait another year, it costs more. But this wonderful idea of the canal system between False Creek and Cole Harbour, through Chinatown Gastown.
Oh, that would be just fabulous.
Has this?
Yeah.
Do we ever seriously look at this?
Well,
Can you
again,
imagine
yeah.
sitting at cafes and shops along canals and boats being able to go?
He's a traveler.
Yeah, I'm a traveler.
You should run, you know?
I like stuff like that. I don't want to run. I'm too
No, those
mean.
are great ideas. And
Yeah.
these are the ideas that we bring forward and see. I mean, again, it's money. You know, they all cost money. There's a lot
Yes.
of great ideas.
And money
And
is in short supply these
money
days.
is in short supply. So, and I know for myself, I want to make sure that early care and learning is in there. I want to make sure that our programmers are being paid. I want to make sure that the fitness centers are up to
Yes.
speed. I want to make sure that the maintenance of our buildings are there. So when you look at something like the Bloedel Conservatory, is it being maintained so that we
Yes.
don't get told another 15 years from now it's it's going to have to come down?
But
Our
we've saved
outdoor
it.
pools.
But we have saved it.
We have saved it, but
Yeah,
still,
yeah,
we need
yeah.
millions to work on that roof. The reason why? Because they're not maintained.
But it's such a great place.
It is a beautiful place,
Yeah.
but they're all beautiful places.
Yes.
People get attached. Mount Pleasant Community Center, Riley
Yes.
Park, Sunset.
All
People
beautiful.
get it, yes, but
Yeah.
they need to be
and
maintained.
the whole new development, what do we call that development now, where the
one?
new pool is? Where Percy Norman used to be.
Hillcrest.
Yeah, that's
But
a great development.
It's gorgeous, but needs to be maintained. And what do we hear? I ask, and they say, oh, it's got a shelf life of 50, 60 years. And I think, when you travel to Europe, they've got, what, shelf lives of
Yeah,
hundreds of years.
1,200.
We don't think,
Yeah.
okay, 60 years, it's
Yeah.
coming down.
Yeah,
Get the wrecking ball out.
I spent a lot of time in a certain city that everything's
Yes.
1,200 years. Constance, we got less than 30 seconds. You're running for another office?
I'm running for the nomination for Vancouver Falls Creek.
For
Vancouver
the
Falls
province.
Creek for the province, provincial. Absolutely.
good luck.
My dad's old riding.
We'll keep you.
Another Barnes.
Yeah, another the other Barnes.
A
All right.
female Barnes.
Keep the name going.
Just as powerful and tough, though. Just with high heels.
Constance, thanks very much. Yeah,
Thank you.
Emery looked so silly when he wore heels.
Yeah, I
All
know.
right.
Thank you very much.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it.
My pleasure. Thank you. All right, folks. Next week the building is dark. We're giving it over to some other activity. So we are going to run a repeat show. Alan Twigg from BC Book World talks about how the world of publishing is changing. He says that no matter what happens, there will always be books. We hope so. DavidBerner.com is the site to go to. Many thanks for joining us here on Shaw Community Television, Cable 4. Good night.